Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Oculi Rebus. This is your host, Mike Ellis. This episode is produced by John Solis and is a Yuckfo production. So, I was going to do 2 episodes this week. Decided against it. Decided to give the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, September 11th. 20th anniversary, the full respect that it deserves. Well, the respect that I can give it, which is not the respect it deserves. So this episode is titled 9/11 and 24 Hours of Peace. So the morning of 9/11, if you ever had the chance to go to the museum in New York, highly recommend it. It'll bring emotion. I was alive during the attacks, but I think even if you weren't, you would still be remiss if it didn't bring you to emotion. It's a solemn area, and it's hollowed. I had the, I'm not going to say honor, I had the luxury of going to the temporary 9/11 memorial or museum thing. It was different. It was lively. I remember seeing a painted motorcycle. I think it had something to do with David Bowie. I don't know. But it wasn't until I traveled back to New York City and went to the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, and that's an honor. Right when you walk in, you hear thousands of voices. One of the voices that stood out was a gentleman talking about the blue sky. And as you walk through the museum, you see everyone's depiction. Well, not everyone, but you see a lot of people's depiction of the blue sky they saw that morning. It's kind of beautiful. It's kind of sad and it's kind of dark. The bluest of skies was the darkest ones that we've had in a few generations. So, 8:46, Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower. 9:03, Flight 175 into the South Tower, with the starboard engine and some other debris flying as far as 6 New York City blocks. At 9:37, Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon. This was the first time, and as of right now, and hopefully forever, since 1812 that an actual attack on Washington came to fruition. If you think about saying January 6th, stop listening to the podcast now, because you have no idea of the gravitas that you're missing. 10:03, Flight 983 crashed into Pennsylvania. Some patriots on board that flight stormed the cockpit and they took the plane back. Sadly, they weren't able to do anything with it other than safely crash it. Safely crash it, killing everybody on board. But at least the fucking terrorists didn't crash into the White House, which is what Intel says was the goal. Now, there's a song by the industrial rock group. I can't remember the name of the song. But the vocalist, Al Jorgensen, who's actually fairly liberal, big gun guy though, he penned the lyrics, I'm on a mission to never forget 3,000 people I've never met. So it looks like the official count is 2,996. 3,000 just sounds better for a lyrical perspective. But I remember hearing that we always talk about never forget 9/11, right? Remember the flags, the t-shirts, all that stuff that was probably made in China and sold in New York street corners for fucking $45. But I remember hearing that. I was like, yeah, I would never forget those 3,000 people. Now, I don't know Tom from Dick or Harry. I don't know an individual name. Now, I've been there and I've read some of the names, but I can't tell you who they are. But I can tell you this much: I'll never forget them. I'm on a mission to never forget the 3,000 people I've never met. Sadly, a lot of people are on a mission to forget that. More to come. So, I wrote a love letter to my wife at one point, and in it, I put something along the lines of that a picture is worth 1,000,000 words, but not 1,000 pictures can begin to explain how I feel. Sounded cool. You know, she fell in love with me. But the implication of a statement like that, it pales, it doesn't fit to say it here. All the pictures we have, all the video, the still shots that could be made from those videos, all those, the sound, you know, they say you can't hear sound from a picture. Some of those 9/11 ones, you absolutely can. There's not enough film, enough picture to be able to explain what America felt that day. But there is one, we'll say individual, did everything, all the actions, the 3,000 people that I vow to never forget. And I know the listeners of this podcast probably vow to never forget. But there's one person, for lack of better words, that all those pictures, all the sound and everything was in earshot, was in eyesight. All of that, though, can be surmised into one word. And there's only one person that has the right to make the claim. And that's Lady Liberty. Happened right down the river from her. It was sorrow. If a copper statue could cry, she would have flooded and drowned that day. Everything that statue represents was attacked. Everything that statue still stands for is a testament that those 3,000 people were a lost cause for some terrorists. Now, that's going to sound wrong, and it's going to sound like I'm diminishing those 3,000. I'm not. What I'm trying to articulate, I guess, trying to put words to thought, words to emotion, words to some kind of picture I have in my head, is you failed. Yeah, you crushed the economy. You threw us into a 20-year war. But our flag still stands. And Lady Liberty, that sexy bitch in green, she used to be a copper tone girl at one point. She still stands. And even if she was knocked down that day, she would still stand. That's the kind of life that can't be taken. That's the kind of life, though, that could die, but it can't be taken. That's a life that could be murdered and trampled, but not be taken. Now, some of you guys are sit there and say, well, murder, that's life being taken. In its purest sense, yes. But it'll never be taken. There will always be a good percentage of Americans that don't need that statue to stand to know that she stands. Most Americans can go to the 9/11 memorial area and through some freak of nature say, I could see those buildings still standing here. There's a certain level of beauty when it comes to the subconscious brain. We weren't defeated that day. We were united. Now, I'm not going to waste time to mention the atrocities that some of our Muslim brothers and sisters in the days after 9/11 and the years after that they faced. I'm not going to give that more thought than this. The people that took offense to these innocent Americans, fuck them. That's it. I'm not going to carry on a legacy in this episode for them. Fuck them. Plain and simple. So, this led us down a wild path. 20 years of war. 20 years of continued war. I don't care what everybody thinks. It's the war cycle. I always talk about it. And we'll find another one soon. We'll find another one soon enough. So, 24 hours of peace. That leads us into September 12th. There was this emphatic moment in our history where even though we were ready to wage war to the gates of hell to hold some people accountable, there was this solidarity and peace. I don't think we'll find that again. Not unless another travesty like this happens. Let's think about this. 9/11, right after that, solidarity, unity, peace, friendship, love. Let's backtrack. You have Kennedy. Right after Kennedy, peace, love, unity, togetherness. Just got to throw a couple more words out there, right? Granted, somebody killed Kennedy, and were there people happy that Kennedy was no longer with us? Sure. But by and large, 99% of Americans felt the sorrow. Let's go back a little bit more. Pearl Harbor. Right after that, unity, love. Same thing. And I would like to think that you go further back, you got the Lusitania. You go further back, you got Lincoln. It's crazy though. Now Lincoln divided and united a country. Now, granted, there was a lot of people at the time that were happy that Lincoln died, but by and large, America was not. Now, sure, it took a lot longer for mail to be distributed and the news to make it out. But 24-hour theory is they were still together. Now, something has happened. I'm going to go with since Reagan. No, I'll give credit. I'll say George Clinton, Bill Clinton. And initially George Bush. If George Bush was killed early in his presidency or on 9/11, there would have been no haters, no naysayers. There wouldn't have been thunderous applause. But that's where it ends. People, sadly, would have been happy if Obama was assassinated. People would have been happy if Trump was assassinated. People would be happy, sadly, if Joe Biden was assassinated. That's where we are in America right now. We're so fucking fractured. We're so broken, discombobulated. We want to fight so much that we're willing to fight ourselves. I'm not calling for the assassination of any president, former or current. I would mourn. I could disagree with you on every single policy. I would mourn. That's my president. People stopped saying that with Bush. I remember seeing in the rock and roll or metal magazines a T-shirt. Good Bush, it showed a crotch with some hair. Bad Bush, it showed the president. I thought it was funny, but we started making this comedic exception where it wasn't no more for fodder. It wasn't enough just to make fun of the politics or the idiots saying idiotic things. Instead, we have to bastardize them. We had to attack them. We had to knock them down. Yes, y'all are guilty. Would you mourn the loss of the president? This is for your figureheads on late night TV. Sure, I genuinely think they would. But the audience that you've garnered, the audience that you've grown over the years, some of them won't. And it doesn't matter the president, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green Party, God no. Doesn't matter. There's going to be on Facebook non-trolls, non-Pepe the Frog people happy that one of our last couple of presidents, as if they were still president, were to die in office. They would be happy. I remember seeing for Trump, hoping he died of COVID. I saw that. That's crazy. That's the America we have now. We don't have the September 12th America no more. We have the September 10th. We have a country that's so divided again that by and large, we're willing to forget those 3,000 people we never met. We're willing to forget the countless service members that said, take my life for freedom. It's a choice. I always stand on my soapbox. It's liquid detergent, so it's in a bottle. And I tell you guys, week in, week out, uneducated voters are who's going to destroy the country. I don't think you're an uneducated voter if I disagree with you. I think you're an uneducated voter if you're a fucking idiot. Now, there are certain people on the center right, the center left, and the fake center that are educated. They're not the extremist patriot that we've talked about previously. I've told you guys, at least in one episode, about 9/11 and how at least 2-3 times a week I look at my watch and it's 9/11. Honestly, it's probably 4 or 5. It happens almost every day. It's an instinctual thing. It just happens. That's not to say that if it didn't happen, I wouldn't wake up every day thinking it's September 10th. I don't think that, but I think a lot of people do. I wake up every day thinking it's September 12th. If you want to know a fact, is racism real? Sure, it exists. There's people that are racist. Country's not. We saw that on September 12th. It perplexes me. It agitates me. It confuses me. All these words that mean the same thing, it does that. But I have to attach another point to it to drive the point through. Now, let's talk about emotion real quick. I wish everybody woke up September 12th, love thy neighbor, and we just made America what it was. I wish the terrorist attacks never happened, but I'm not going to get either of those. I just hate how people wake up September 10th. Now, here's the thing with emotion. Love and pain, we're stick with those two simple words. Because you can come up with a few similes for love, and you can come up with a fuck ton of similes for sadness, or for pain, excuse me. Let's talk about love and pain. Love can't be replicated, neither can pain. There's no real receptors for it. There's pain receptors, but emotionally, there's no real receptors. That's why paper cuts are the worst pain in the world. And that's why your spouse you have today is the one you love more than anyone else in the world. Don't get offended, babe. I love you more than anyone else. I don't think if we ever get attacked again, we're going to say it's worse because it's a fresh wound. I also think if we ever have another September 12th, we'll say it's the best because it's a fresh unity. So, 8th grade, biology, Miss Richards. Awesome teacher, great educator. She was tough, she was hard. She was every part of a mentor and every part of a bitch you could have asked for when it came to shaping minds and molding students. She had been teaching for over 20 years. She did it because she loved the job. I can tell you so much about Miss Richards. So much. I remember she always wore a black leather belt with either a silver or a gold little buckle piece on it. She always had her hair with her little perm. And she didn't wear a lot of colors of t-shirts. And her slacks, always black. I can remember vivid conversations. I enjoyed her as a teacher. But there's a connection. There was Mrs. Nettles, there was Miss Duffin, Mr. Tiemann. I can name a couple of other teachers. Miss White. Plenty that were instrumental in making me the person I am today. But I was in Miss Richards' class on September 11th. She told us about the attack. I remember her clothes. I remember all this because every day I went into the class, I saw her standing there by the chalkboard telling us the country's been attacked. They brought the TVs in and it was wall-to-wall coverage. CNN, Fox News, all of this. But guess what? They were united. They weren't divided over some political ideology that day. It was all about bin Laden. All about the 4 planes. All about the terrorist attack. All about the 3,000 people no longer with us. A lot of the things I remember about Miss Richards is because of 9/11. It's fact. Undisputable fact. So, September 14th. I thought about, we'll mention one of the things. So, September 11th, Bush was told about the first plane. Didn't have enough information yet to be able to say it was an attack. He sat down and began reading to kids in preschool or elementary. Then he was told about the second attack. He finished reading because the kids don't need to see that. He was put up in the air. Cheney was put up in the air. We had all the multiple Air Force Ones out and about, flying around, trying to scrabble the possible enemy attack on the president. He delivered a speech at the White House that evening. It was a good speech. Damn good speech. He ended it with a little bit of religious rhetoric. As I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Even if you're not a religious person, that's got to strike a chord, shake a spine, and hopefully not offend you too much. But a few days later, September 14th, Ground Zero. The president was beginning to deliver remarks. It's crazy because there's certain times in my life where there's an impactful speech, impactful statement, just an emphatic moment in my life where there's this weird black silence is what I like to call it. And the only thing that cuts through is the white noise, that voice. Everything else is muffled. It's muted. It's blank. Doesn't exist. But I remember watching the TV that night. And there's the president wearing his windbreaker. Official windbreaker. And he began to speak. And then somebody yelled. And it cut through. It says, "I can't hear you." And then a few words were said by President Bush that to this day still get me. The president responded with a bullhorn. I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. The people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon. Now, there's a lot of anti-war people that say that was the rallying cry. That's what gave Americans the conviction to go to the gates of hell for bin Laden. Gave Americans the conviction to agree to a 20-year war. I really don't think so. I think that was just a man, not a president, not the commander-in-chief, just a man responding emotionally, and rightfully so. I'm not saying he responded emotionally and it's failed. No, this was from the heart, and he meant it. I think history is beginning to show President Bush in a pretty good light. I think he's a man who genuinely loved the country. Maybe not as conservative fiscally as I wanted him to be, but I do think he regrets every death from 9/11 up until a few weeks ago when we lost 13 service members in Afghanistan at the Kabul International Airport, or Karzai International Airport. I'm pretty sure he felt those too. Not even his fault anymore. But I feel like he would take more of a leadership stance than the leadership we have right now. So, I'm certain I'll do this again in a year, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Who knows? I might say the same thing. My emotions might change. As I get older, it happens. Now, on September 11th, I genuinely mean this. Always hold my head in silence, my eyes closed for a little while. What sucks is I can't stop thinking about the attack. Not that I want to, but I do. I just want a moment of clarity, a moment of absolute nothingness. But I know I'll never get it. Just like I know I'll never get the Rockstar song by Smash Mouth out of my head. Both are about the same damn age. I think Rockstar came out in 98, something like that. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Actually, no, I need to finish. 9/11 and 24 hours apiece. I've said it a couple times. I really wish we all woke up and it was September 12th. Not literally, but figuratively. But I do literally mean that I wish we could have that peace, that harmony, that love, that unity, that patriotism, unapologetic patriotism. I know that's never going to happen for more than 24 hours. Well, I really hope everybody enjoyed this episode. And take a few minutes. Think about where you were September 11th. DM me. Because I really want to know. I'd like to know. I know where Moby was at. It's all MTV Cribs. But I'd like to know. Because this is something that doesn't change. And I think it's going to be one of your most vivid memories. if you were old enough to remember. Well, everyone, it's been hard doing this episode. I tried to not be hateful. I tried not to get angry. I think I was pretty good. So everyone, join me on the mission to never forget 3,000 people we never met and bring a sense of unity back to this country. Make it okay to be a real patriot again. That unapologetic patriotism. I sure as fuck miss it. Make sure you share this Instagram at Oculi_Erebus, Twitter at Oerebus. I'm really starting to thinking about doing a Facebook. I'm just afraid that I'll only have like 10 or 15 followers. But like, share, retweet, hit the DMs. I have 2 requests. Well, it was 1 request, but it's going to be 2 episodes. Those will be in the next coming weeks. Get on Apple Podcasts. Give it a 5-star. Even if you hate it, put why you love it. Help spread the wealth. Well, in typical fashion, I can go on, but it's time to move on. Mike Ellis, out.